Good evening, fellow Plexers. I have a unique one for you. This was a question posed by a subscriber to my YouTube channel. He was having trouble adding the show Monsters, or at least that's how it's listed at TMDB. The story of the Mendez brothers. Well, over at TMDB, let's back up to the show level. It's called Monster 2022, where each season is a different theme. So the first season is the Jeffrey Dahmer story. The second season is the Lyle and Eric Mendez story. And the third season hasn't been released. So September 2022 to September 2024. And they expect this to be the third season. Well, I'm sure if we do this, so this is the Mendez story. I'm sure if we go to TMDB again, and search like this, this is how the first season that's listed at TVDB is actually named at TMDB. So the issue is, and I'm not going to show too much of it, and I don't often do a video more than once. Usually I show where I get stuck, but this was too confusing to keep filming while I figure this out, so I'm starting fresh. So my suggestion is to name from TVDB. And IMDB doesn't matter for a TV series, but they're matching IMDB is matching TVDB with a show named Monsters. Let's see, I don't use TVDB for series ever. And I know I probably missed the season. Okay, so 3 seasons, see all. Alright, so this is the Jeffrey Dahmer season, this is the Mendez, and this is the unreleased one. So even though this is only used for a movie library, it agrees with TVDB. So Plex's metadata, their scanner and agent, is a combination of metadata from these two sources, these two databases, among others too, but primarily it's between these two. A Plex movie library, it mixes up metadata from TMDB and IMDB. So IMDB plays no role in a Plex TV show library, just as TVDB plays no role in a Plex movie library. So we see it's all jumbled here, and it's no wonder there's an issue scanning in a Plex library. So I've got 3 setups here. I've got my main TV show. And if you've watched my FileBot videos, you already know that I name to TVDB, and that's how these are named, just as I would name it. I don't use a source ID. I just use a TVDB entry, and if the entry does not have a year already, I add the year with my expression. If the entry does have a year, my expression compensates so I don't end up with a double year. All right, so that's our first setup. I'm going to add this show to a Plex test library on my older Synology NAS, just like I would name any show. And I pull episode ordering for the whole library from TVDB. Now I always suggest that in my FileBot videos, but a lot of you leave it at the default, the movie database. So this is going to just work for how I normally do Plex. So let's drop that in here. Plex will scan automatically and we'll see what happens. Okay, so Monster singular 2022, 2 seasons. I don't like the show poster because it makes you think it's just the 1 season content. But you do see the separate seasons. and everything scans correctly except, and this is weird, the season or the episode 1 name for season 1, it's coming from TV or IMDB, which is kind of a weird thing, right? Episode 1 from here, it's Bad Meat. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe IMDB is involved in Plex's scanner and Agent 2, and Plex just doesn't tell us that in the TV series naming guide. There's always something new to learn about Plex. So that's interesting. I don't like this season poster, but I can go see what else is available, because this really makes it seem like it's just the series about Jeffrey Dahmer. So there's not a lot of choices. It's either Dahmer or the Mendez brothers, besides this one that really reminds me more of like a spooky Curb Your Enthusiasm than it does this show. But maybe the poster database has a better poster than this. But it scans in good enough, and I just kind of don't really like that episode name. But I don't care, it's got the right synopsis for it. So that's a win. Alright, so what we need to do is we need to create another library. So I've got nothing in here, and let me take this show and add it to the folder I've got labeled TV TMDB. And now this one I use FileBot to pull naming from TMDB. So it's the Monsters 2024 with a source ID for extra security and matching. And it's got the episode's name as it's listed at TMDB. So let's call this the TV TMDB library, and we'll just add it as default. When I say default, I mean episode ordering from TMDB. All right, so this one here, TMDB, we know it's right because of the structure. And again, I won't change this. I'll leave the movie database for episode ordering. And this is where it breaks down. One season. So it gets the first season, and let's make sure this is really what it's supposed to be. All right, so this is the first season from the TVDB. Well, actually, I may not have done this right. Let's go into the structure. Okay, so it's named for the first season correctly from TMDB, but when it's scanned in, it's pulling the first season from the TVDB entry that's about Jeffrey Dahmer. So let's see if we can fix this at all. But we shouldn't be able to, because it's pulling from the wrong database even though it's named for the right database. So I really don't know what to do besides trying to fix match it. And we have to go to the show level for that. Before we do, let's refresh the metadata. Nothing changed. It's still coming from TVDB. So let's fix match. Okay, so the name doesn't match Monsters 2024. Plex is just assuming that's the name. So this TMDB entry for Monsters 2024 just isn't going to show up, and Plex is picking what it thinks it is, Monster singular 2022, but there's 2 seasons out, and it's mixing up season 2 of this show with a season 1 TMDB entry we're looking for. So let's do this. Oh, wrong group of Chrome windows. Let's grab the source ID number and try fix match with it. So let's put that as a title, and let's change the year to 2024. No matches. Let's try it without the year. Just the source ID. No matches. Let's fix the year. Try it without the year there. It's just not going to match it because Plex is not picking up this TMDB entry anyplace and adding it to the series scanner. That's what's apparent to me. So this is a failure if you're naming it this way. So again, this library by default is pulling episode ordering from TMDB. Let's just double check that. This is not changed. So if that's how your library is set up, where is my folder structure? Are you confused yet? I told you this was going to be confusing. Let's remove this structure. Paste it back here. And let's go in and grab this. Make a copy of it. And throw it in here. So this represents a default library with episode ordering from TMDB. And all we've done is renamed this show to TVDB. Alright, so let's go back in. Now it's got 2 seasons. We still have that funky episode 1 that comes from IMDB instead of pulling the episode name from TVDB. And season 2 pulls correctly as being about the Mendez brothers. And let's back up. Or let's go to the show level. Episode ordering globally is still the movie database. So now let's check the episode ordering at the show level. Now we've never had this match, so at the show level, Plex picked TVDB all by itself. We did not have to make an adjustment, which to me is a new thing to find out. Normally this would have stayed the same as the library global and not changed by itself. So simply renaming the folder structure to match the TVDB entry, even though your Plex library is set up to pull episode ordering from TMDB, added this series correctly. Which means I don't really have to do this third test. I was going to set it up for TVDB ordering and then change it to TVDB, but we did it all with just this one folder structure. So, I don't know why, but this entry hasn't been incorporated into Plex's metadata that they scrape. This has, and even if you pull episode ordering from TMDB by default, at least with my latest stable version of Plex, it's scanning it in and automatically changing the metadata order from TVDB for episode ordering. This is really confusing, and again, I can't explain why in both instances the episode name for the first episode in the first season is coming from IMDB. That, again, that must mean that IMDB has something to do with a Plex series scanner, even though Plex tells us source ID can be TMDB or TVDB. Just like source ID for a movie library can be TMDB or IMDB. So IMDB does play a role in the overall unification of the databases. I'm not sure how much of a role it plays, but right now, until until TMDB and TVDB align more, you can't name to TMDB for this series. You have to treat it from TVDB, and you may want to rename this earlier series from TMDB, Dahmer Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer Story. You may want to rename that to its TVDB entry, where both shows are really season 1 and season 2. Actually, I could try this, but I'm going to quit while I'm ahead. I could see how this adds a show like that. But again, all my FileBot videos show naming to TVDB, having the episode ordering from TVDB, and I never have a problem. So if I was adding this show instead of working with dummy files, I would not have known that there's an issue with it, because it adds perfectly fine in my style. But if I was someone who named to the TMDB, then of course I would have hit a brick wall and had to figure out how to get around it. So, thanks for watching. I hope this is clear to everybody. But if you named a TVDB with this show and throw it into a library, no matter where the episode ordering is coming from, Plex seems like it can figure it out without the manual adjustments we might have had to do for an episode ordering globally based on TMDB. And I know I've confused a lot of people, and I'm sorry for it, but this is what I found out about this show tonight. Happy Plexing. Thanks for watching.